Hi, my name's Kat Rattray. I'm an illustrator of children's books and I run an illustration business under the name of Catbox, and I've actually created a brand where I offer a service as an illustrator for authors and small business owners where I illustrate their message called Cat and Box. So the storybook that I created was, well, it was told to me that the name was Alfie's present, so it could be Christopher's present, John's present, Catherine's present. The story is about a little boy or girl who gets to hand out all the presents at Christmas time. You know, it's really exciting and usually the children jump out and they want to, I'll hand it out to Granny. So he does, he hands all the presents out and slowly he takes them away from the Christmas tree. And then slowly he's thinking, but where are my presents? And he gets actually quite upset. And in the end, the very last present that is left under the tree is for John, Archie, whatever his name is, and he's happy. So that's what the story is about. It's a Christmas themed book. It's totally out there, lovely book to give you at Christmas and give your child and personalise. So yeah, and there's some quirky little characters to choose from. Primarily, it's from having children myself and reading them stories every night. I would also say I've always been a lover of drawing, and how it developed into something I wanted to do was, I don't know, being inspired by the likes of Alison Lester and people like that who have created amazing illustrations. How excited my children got when they saw the pictures and the words came together. Also, there's a massive thing for me. I would find I go into bookshops and I would be totally drawn to the children's book area. And you know why I was drawn? I was personally drawn by all the amazing covers, everything there. It was like an art gallery for me. And I thought, I'm gonna have a go at that. So I started to have a go. And from one storybook I wrote for myself, it led on to another and on to another. And my kids love it. For me, it's developing the initial idea. The bit that I love the most is really when you are given the words, and it's the storyboarding phase. Because for me, I don't just look at the words and start drawing. I look at the words, I read through the text, I imagine the characters and I put myself in their shoes. Even to the point of acting out scenes. I break it into scenes and then I start to do really rough sketches. I love that part, the idea generation side. Well, if I hadn't had my drawing when I was younger, I wonder how it would have been. My drawing, for me, when I was a little kid, was my safe place. It was where I could go to be quiet and calm myself down. We live in a really busy world and we've got hundreds of screens in front of us. So today, in 2019, it's fundamental that we push our kids to use pencils, create drawings. It evokes their imagination, it gets them, it takes them away from the screens. It builds their learning and it gets them to look around them, into their worlds further. I just think it's fundamental, drawing. Where my creative process when it comes to basically developing a children's book and the illustrations, it starts with the initial client contact. They send through their words, I have a chat with them online or face-to-face. I interview them about what they see. I get them to fill out a template where they actually also give me ideas about what they foresee, because sometimes when people write books, they have visions as well. And then I start to create what I call storyboards, little thumbnails. And again, it's always working with the client. The client's then happy, so I then do a more detailed storyboard, and then the client has to approve that. And then we start to work on the first draft of the stories, and that process is where you're doing the more and more refined images. I do both by hand and I also use the digital platform called Procreate as well. So my go-to method with regards to illustration is originally it was 100% hand-drawn. I'm never going to be the person who ever does digital images because they just look a bit rubbishy. So I would say that the old school technique was great with me, then scanning it and then editing it in basically in Photoshop, until I started with Story Antics And I was working alongside and helping, nurturing a team of interns who all worked on the iPad Pro and in Procreate. They introduced me to it. And if I hadn't invested in that machine and gone that way, I wouldn't have been able to create this for this specific project. I love creating my illustrations on Procreate now because it's fully editable and I can see what it will look like in the end on the screen in front of me instead of having to do it by hand, scan, then it changes it and you really don't know how it's going to print out. So yeah, a bit of both really, a bit of both. Oh my God, creative slumps, they happen all the time for us illustrators or designers. So for example, I had a big creative slump, I'll be really honest. I went to a big conference for women in business called OSMUM and it was huge. I spent 3 days with amazing entrepreneurs, brainstorming ideas, finding myself a business coach, all of that. I came home from there really inspired, but do you know what? 2 days after I'd been there, I went to my desk to do a job and I had too much information that I went into a slump. I could not work. I could not come up with ideas. So in the end, you know what I did? When I have a creative slump, I walk away from my desk. I do something else. It might be that I actually turn on Netflix. It might be that I go for a walk. I take myself away from the environment that's causing the slump. It might be that I have to write off the day. Next day I get up, I might change my environment and go and work in, say, a cafe or something. And I set myself clear goals. You're going to do something small. I see the way I approach projects as a bit like the story of the hare and the tortoise. I try to work like the tortoise, slow, steady, and I get there. Because when you rush into any job, you'll hit the wall and that's when your creative slumps happen. Okay? So that's my advice. Slow and steady wins the race. It's been a learning experience. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, it's been very different for me because when I design or create or illustrate a children's book, fundamentally I've got one character to think about, one background, and that's it. I think it was a challenge for me because I was offering up three different versions of each character and the main character is 6 versions. So I actually worked out, I think I did about 150 character drawings for the book. Yes, it was a challenge. It was the best thing I ever did because it now makes me feel I've learned so much that I can put back into working for other people as well. I've enjoyed working with Lara. I've enjoyed working with the intern team too. I think it's also what I love about Story Antics is the opportunities it's providing for people who are new to the illustration industry or marketing. I think what Lara's created is a really great business model.